worship team a round of applause. They're awesome, right? They come every week and practice for like 2 or 3 hours either Monday or Tuesday, and then they come early every Wednesday to practice as well. So they're awesome. Super thankful for everything they're doing. So this week we have a very special guest speaker, sort of a guest. Not really a guest. It's not me, so you're a guest in that sense.
Suppose.
So, this is Bryce. Let's give Bryce a round of applause.
Alright, who knows where Romans is? We talked about it last week. Where's that?
Right there.
Right here? You're close. We're in John. What page you at?
John.
Let's go to chapter 2. $768. 5 points to the softball player in the front row. Does everybody know where Romans 2 is? We find it page 768. We're actually going to be at the end of Romans, so 760, or end of Romans 2, so 769, page 769. It's on the right. If you found it, just look at me. If you found it, just give me some eye contact. Romans 2. We're going to be doing verses 25 through 29. If you found it, just look at me. That way I know. Got some eyes? People still looking? Got it? Alright, there you go. You got it? Sweet. Sweet. Alright, we're going to talk about something weird. So we're going to talk about an analogy that Paul used to describe something that to us seems either irrelevant or weird. Does anybody know what the term circumcision means?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, weird. We're not going to explain it. That's not the plan tonight. But the plan is to take the like, think about it like a tool. He used a tool like an analogy. He used that as a tool to explain something. Now, in order to understand what we're going to read, you need to understand something about Jews. Does anybody know what a Jew is?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
It's like Hitler shot them all.
Yeah, so there's a massive, during the 40s, the Holocaust, right, during World War II, a lot of Jewish people died. Does anybody else want to take a crack at it? Yeah.
People make fun of that for having big noses.
Yes, so there's a lot of racism attached to Judaism. Curly hair, yes. A lot of stereotypes. What else?
Little Dicky.
We're going to keep going. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Boom. Home run. Anybody hear that? Third row. Do you guys hear that? You want to say it again?
You're the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
That is a brilliant answer. So another thing they are, because they're the lineage being like children, so your grandfather, you're in your grandfather's lineage, and his father before him, you could trace that down. They were God's chosen people. And there were a few things they did to identify themselves as such. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right? So we're talking about Jews. Now, one of the things they did was they did circumcision on their children when they were born. Now, this is an outward sign of an inward thing, and that's what we're going to talk about, is how Paul described Christianity the same way. He said, Christianity is an inward thing. If you got all the outward stuff going for you, it's not valuable. It's only valuable if you have the inward stuff in its proper place. Does that make sense? All right, we're going to read this, and then we're going to make sense of it. What's up?
Is that why we're circumcised?
No. Yeah, you can ask him later. You can do it in small groups. Guys group can talk about this in small groups. All right, so I'm going to read through this passage. Keep in mind, circumcision is talking about an outward sign of something, okay? So think about it. We're going to talk about this later as wearing a jersey, all right? So think about that. So it's like having a shirt on that says, I am Jewish, or I'm a part of this lineage. It says, listen up. Back row, listen up. It says, circumcision has value if you observe the law. But if you break the law, you have become as though you have not been circumcised. So then, if those who are circumcised, those who have the sign, right, they have the, like, I'm a part of the lineage t-shirt. If those if those who are not circumcised keep the law's requirements, will they not be regarded as though they were circumcised? So if the people who had the stuff right on the inside but didn't have the stuff on the outside going for them, wouldn't that seem more like a better sign of something? So let's go to verse 27. The one who is not circumcised physically and yet obeys the law will condemn you, even though you have the written code and circumcision are a lawbreaker. Even though you, who, excuse me. Verse 28, a person who is not a Jew, who is one only outwardly, a person is not a Jew who is one only outwardly, nor is circumcision merely outward and physical. No, a person is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision is a circumcision of the heart by the Spirit, not by the written code. Such a person's praise is not from other people, but from God. All right, so let's break that down. We're going to use the same tool Hugh used, which was an analogy, one that made sense to the people he was talking to. So we get the idea that circumcision was this outward sign saying that, like, I'm a part of a lineage that is a part of the people of God. Nowadays, who do people think of as religious? Like at your school? What are some things? Mormons, yeah, those are big. Who else?
Calvinists.
All right, yeah. Atheist is kind of religion, yeah. What else?
I know this guy who worships the devil.
Satanism?
Satanism.
Yeah, sure, that's
It's
one.
a Satanist.
Satanist. The practice of Satan. Buddhism? Yeah, there you go. We're missing a big one. What are we? Christians. Yes. So people who are people of God, right? They identify by these names: Mormonism, Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, right? So we have like all these isms and Christianity, right? Christism. You can almost think about it. So we have all these different religions, and they all identify with different things. All right. Now I want you to imagine if Christians had a T-shirt. All right. Now if you were going to be a Christian, all these Christians had T-shirts, and the T-shirt said, "I'm a Christian." Now, if I wore one of those T-shirts, but I had no relationship with God, and I even showed up to youth group, and maybe I even sang some songs, but I never prayed or talked to God at all, what's the value of the T-shirt?
Nothing.
It's kind of pointless, right? It loses its value. It doesn't have a meaning to it. Now, we don't have T-shirts, but we have things that we treat just like the Jews treated circumcision. Some of those things in my life is I think, well, I go to Bible school. Okay? So I study the Bible, right? And I listen to worship music and I write music about God. So I sing, right? So think about that, like worship, we just did worship. Or maybe you could say, I go to youth group on Wednesday nights, or even I go to church on Sunday mornings. So you have like all these things lined up and you're like, I do all this stuff outwardly. What Paul is saying here is that if you do all these things, and he compares it to, but if you break the law, and later refers to, it's a matter of the heart here, what value do those things have? If we do all this random stuff, if we have the T-shirt, if we bought the hat, if we showed up on Wednesday night for youth group, if we sang during worship and even got emotional about it, if we listened to sermons, and maybe even read our Bibles, if we did all that stuff, but there was nothing going on inwardly between our heart and God, what value does all this stuff have? Nothing. Nothing. Like, if you're here for the social interaction, you're going to have social interaction, you're going to have fun. And if you're here because you enjoy the music, cool. If you're here because your parents are making you be here, that's great. You will get all those things. None of them won't happen. They'll still occur. But the thing that actually matters, the thing that actually puts points on the board, the thing that actually is important is the inward thing. At the end of verse 29 it says, such a person's praise is not from other people but from God. God is the one keeping score here, guys. Now you can look at me, or you can look at Chase or anyone else at Moody and think, oh cool, they go to Bible school. Or you can look at anybody else you perhaps look up to and say, man, they do this, this, and this, and you can give them props and praise in your mind, and you can like assign a bunch of points to them, Christian points, and think, man, they're doing a lot of things right. But even if they're doing all of those things, God's not like marking down tally marks and saying, they went to church on Wednesday night and Sunday morning, and they read their Bible on this day, and they listened to worship music for 20 minutes on Thursday. Like, he's not doing that, guys. He's not. Now here's the thing. When it talks about circumcision, it doesn't describe it just nothing. Now this t-shirt idea, this t-shirt thing has value. And here's why. Because if your heart, the inward stuff over here, if that's lined up, if that's in the right place, if you and God genuinely have a relationship, a back and forth talking relationship, a repentant relationship, if that relationship is in place, then all this stuff that you're doing matters. Not because you're earning points, but because it's building a better relationship with God. So why come to youth group on Wednesday nights? Because you have the opportunity to grow inwardly. Does that make sense? There's a purpose behind all this stuff. Just like Paul is saying, circumcision is not meaningless, but it's meaningful only when inwardly you're also following Christ. Question?
If you think that you and God have like a good relationship or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know there's those things like Facebook or whatever, it's like share for this,
Yeah.
believe in God. Like I do that because I don't, it might be weird, but I don't want God to think that I don't care about him.
Right. No, dude, like, for reals, like, that's a super good question.
What?
Okay, this is a super good question. And what he's talking about is a bigger issue than just like Facebook. What we're presented with is questions of, do you own the t-shirt? We get that question all the time, and that's basically what you're being asked. It's like, do you really love God? Because like, if you love God, you would say this stuff. And if you don't, like, God's gonna be like, he doesn't love me, he's not wearing the t-shirt. Right? And like, that's a fear for a lot of us, because what that means is we've understood Christianity wrong. We've understood Christianity on its outward stuff. We've thought about Jesus and our walk with God about its outward like aesthetic, right? The kind of clothes we wear, whether or not we're sharing that post on Facebook. All this stuff that's on the outside, right? But what really matters, what we're talking about when we talk about like God giving praise to us, which is a weird idea, but as far as like God being like, I'm proud of that, that's what I'm looking for, is not the outward stuff. Don't share that stuff on Facebook, you don't have to. You know? Like, you don't need to. Like, God's not just like, did he share it? Like, I saw you scroll past it. Like, don't pretend you didn't see that. He's not like, no, you stopped scrolling, and then you kept going. Like, no. He's not interested in the outward stuff. The outward stuff is meaningful only when it creates inward relationship with God. Does that make sense? So forget the Facebook posts. Like, if you want to post about how much Jesus matters to you because you care about other people hearing about it, like, that's great. If your motivations are about that inward stuff, cool, share it. Yes?
Is inward stuff also things that affect other people's inward stuff?
Absolutely. So I would say, for example, Chase's inward walk matters to us as a youth group.
Walk.
His inward walk. So next week we're talking about walking with Jesus. And we're gonna like,
Explain what it means.
I will give a teaser trailer and give you like a kind of like short explanation. Because when I'm talking about all this inward stuff over here, right, all of a sudden it becomes really like ambiguous or just like weird. Like, okay, then what am I supposed to do? Like, just sit here and try to like, God, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, inwardly, what does that mean? How do I? Because like, if you tell me, do push-ups, you're like, all right, push-ups, I can actively do a thing. But if I say, have an inward relationship with God, you're like, what do I do?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Now, the healthiness of this part of your relationship with God, the inward part, is the most important part. And what's inward can affect other people. If Chase's inward relationship with God was not healthy and is not healthy, it will affect us because he's teaching, right? And if he's teaching, if he's sharing the word of God, if he's like your shepherd, then what kind of hope do you guys have? Like if his relationship is bad, like you guys are screwed. Because like he's supposed to be like your shepherd, your helper, your teacher, your pastor. Like if he is supposed to be the spiritual father to you and like his relationship is bad, so it's like this inward thing. Yeah, it's inward, it's about you and God, but it even affects other people. So this is like a really big deal. It matters. So walking with God. This is what we're going to talk about next week. And in our breakout groups, we're going to talk about we're going to continue to discuss the idea of inward relationships. And I think, Chase, I think you mentioned, maybe not, I'll be back to it. You gave me those weird eyes where you're just like, no. So walking with God. That was your question. What does it mean to walk with God? Does anybody have like a